Cool. We all ready? Okay. All right. Adequate notice of tonight's meeting in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act. The regular meeting of the Leonia Board of Education was called to order on October 29, 2019 at 7:29 p.m. at the Anna Scott School Cafeteria. Adequate notice of tonight's meeting in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act has been provided by the following methods: distribution of notice to the record, posting of notice to the Anna Scott Elementary School, Leonia Middle School, Leonia High School, community bulletin board, public library, Leonia Borough Hall, and the school district website. If everybody could please turn off their cell phones and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Albanese? Present. Mr. Quintana? Mrs. Lisa Klein?
She's not coming. Nor is Michael.
Mrs. Sandy Klein? Present. Mr. Phelan? Mr. Robbins?
You're present.
Dr. Schuler? Present. Mrs. Thompson? Present. Mr. Weimer?
Present.
Mrs. Wild? We do have a quorum.
All right, so... sorry.
Dr. Bertolini?
Present.
Vic?
Here.
Christopher Morello? Here. Myself? Mrs. Terrell? No. And Dennis Basil?
Present.
Did I get it?
Yes. Yeah, that was right. That's fine.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, good, Mr. All right, so tonight, some of you may have seen that at school boards, Leonia was awarded for the high regard for sustainability, and none of that would have been possible without some of the wonderful people on our green team, so they're all here today. So if you guys want to come on up, I'd like the board and our green team to take a picture with our flag. So, Greg, come on up. Step apart. Everybody want to take a picture, guys? Everyone get up. Let's go right maybe in front of you. Everybody get up. Everybody get on in. Everybody get on in. Yeah, we're taking a picture. Here, I'll put it on my. Yeah, that's fine. There you go.
Michelle, would you mind taking a picture?
No? Michelle Jordan. You guys take the front picture. Michelle Jordan. The front. I'll see you.
You guys are going to take a name?
Watch the wire.
Oh, I know.
Watch the wire.
That is correct.
This is the first one.
There we go.
Inhale.
There we go.
Which one? Oh, you mean the borough hall? I think that's too small. We need for space, just classroom space. I think it's Board of Education.
Looks nice. All right. Great job. It was one for each school.
But they should tell them to consolidate it.
Yeah, there's one on the wall right there.
There you go.
They gave us. But they gave us very talking about.
That's okay.
Very nice. No, I districts are yes, Thornfield. Yeah. They want to join. They're not one part.
So, I do just want to say thank you to the Green Team. Because they have been really wonderful, and none of these sustainability objectives would have been possible without all of your help. So, on behalf of the board, we thank the members of our Green Team for all your hard work today. Thank you guys so much. Okay. We will now move into the public comment, concerns, questions, or praise on agenda items. And for those of the Green Team leaving, have a great night. No problem. Come to the party. All right. Yes. So we're in the public comment. Is there anybody, members of the public, that wish to address the board? All right.
Nobody else?
Anybody else?
I got a couple of comments and a couple of questions. Arthur's at 125 East. Under education, 1029, 10B19, the physical therapy evaluation. Isn't that something that you would do at home and have your own insurance pay for it?
No, this is a student with an IEP, so
I'm sorry.
it's a student with an IEP, so it's part of the process.
I don't understand. So it just sounds to me like it's an insurance type thing.
The way that the IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities and Education Act, is written, if we have to evaluate a student in all suspected areas of disability, while parents...
They're classified.
Yeah, parents
Okay.
can.
That's
done that way.
I didn't know that. It wasn't clear from there. It was just, physical...
Whatever you say, it should be a student with an IEP. It's always a student with an IEP.
That's fine. Under 1029-11A-19, second bullet, ACS bathroom update. What's going on in the bathroom?
Is that for the, that's for long-range facility plan, right? So you're talking about where are you?
Yes.
It's just an
It just says...
it should say upgrade.
Upgrade.
Yeah, because some of the bathrooms are old.
What's wrong with it?
Kevin's not here, so I don't know the answer to that, but it's probably dated.
You're actually removing that from the list, right?
You're not doing it. Okay.
A lot of the bathrooms are older and time to upgrade them, but we could...
Well, if they're functional, if it's an ADA compliance issue, then you have to do it. If something's really broken and leaking and you have a plumbing problem, you have to do it. But if it's just dated, you might not have to do it.
That's my concern.
And that's why we're moving it off the list.
Okay. Is that where you're getting the money for the next question, expense, where you're talking about, there's a reassigning, you're going to do...
There was money budgeted for these items this year.
Yeah, you're moving money around within the capital budget.
Well,
okay, when you take it from, you're moving it to someplace, you're getting it from someplace. Where are you getting it from?
No, we're not moving it around from one to another. You want to answer that?
So, yes. So these are capital improvements that we have planned for and budgeted. The order in which individual capital improvements are executed are being changed as a result of this. So higher priority items are being done first. The others may be done later, or we may not do them, decide not to do them.
So there were budget for it's not just something new that you need to do the surface. I mean, that happens, but you need to get the money from somewhere.
No, this is capital improvements. That's why the removal of those top items and the addition of the bottom items. So the money's budgeted there's a large sum of money budgeted, and this money for the addition of coming from the removal of. See those top 4 bullets?
Yeah.
Those are taking off the list, and we're adding the other ones to it.
Okay, so you're trading. That's where you're getting money.
Trade, but it's within the same line.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's appropriate to trade.
I mean, that happens all the time. I just want to know where you're getting it from, because usually, things happen. Like I said, priorities change, stuff surfaces, you need money, you have to do something, and it means that something else doesn't get done.
But this was
emergency appropriation.
But this was part of the budget.
Okay.
So it's not, no emergency check.
What, for my edification, is Leonia 5-year contract with Leonia Association of Administrators and Supervisors? Is that a management union?
The principals, assistant principals, supervisors.
Yes, it's their union.
The principals are unionized?
Yeah.
Everybody's unionized?
Not everybody, but a lot.
A lot, most of them.
I didn't know that.
You might have heard of his Watson in the past.
I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
I've been here 20 years, and there's been a union for at least that long.
Finally, the Edgewater, accommodating the growth, the Edgewater growth and the reimbursement number. I was talking briefly with Roland and the candidate tonight. And for the record, what's the formula? How are we dealing with that? And why are we not just drawing a line in the sand with Edgewater? It has nothing to do with my personal feelings about liking or disliking it. It has to do with money and our, in Leonia. Why can't we just draw a line in the sand and say, we can't handle any more of your students, go somewhere else, Pal Park, Fort Lee. And apparently, Mary Baraglia had posted on Leonia First, it's another one of the Leonia sites, that there's precedent for this in the state. And I think she mentioned Saddle River. So I'm not sure, I'm bringing that up from somebody else's memory base. Why can't we just do that instead of building and spending more millions and millions of dollars building a bigger school?
Well, I'll answer that, I guess. I'll take the answer here. In my mind, it's a pretty simple answer. You take Edgewater students out of Leonia, and you have 2 small high schools. Too small to offer any programs that we offer now. All the programs that we have at the high school would not exist because we take half the population out. And you take half the population out, you can't run programs that we have now. So I think what you create is two poor schools instead of one very good school.
Okay, but what you had in the past, accommodating, and I've commented this previously publicly, when there was excess capacity within the school system to take additional students, where you don't have to add physical plant, where you don't have to add students or a lot of things, the tuition came in and was great for Leonia because it was about $15,000, $18,000, whatever it is, per student that came in as revenue, which is one of the ways you accumulated a $3 million surplus. And had money for spending other purposes. But we're now out of that. We no longer have a certain excess capacity, and we're going to have to do capital building, which is going to cost the taxpayers of Leonia a lot of money to build that. And as I understand it, and Roland hopefully can explain it, that's not included as far as the tuition, the tuition reimbursement formula from the state, correct or incorrect?
If I may, address this under board comments and under the finance reporting, because there is more to it than what you are alluding to. I'm not trying to duck your question.
Okay. I just want to know what our options are. We're looking at a mountain of expenditures, okay, that we're going to have to endure that are not going to strictly benefit us when we have excess capacity. We don't have excess capacity anymore. We're full. So I'm going to find out what we're doing about that. Are we drawing a line in the sand? I understand your point about, all this money coming in, we have all these other programs, but it's on the back, a lot of it's going to be on the backs of Leonia residents. In the meantime, I see Edgewater building another 15-story residential complex where there used to be an office building. Maybe they should have used that space to build a school. They're building and building and building. They're getting tax revenues and bases, and we're suffering from this. Just my view from a taxpayer standpoint, not as an educator. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beck. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak? Okay.
Seeing no one, Mr. Chairman, I move to close the public portion.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. We're now in the board comment / student representative comment. Are there any board comments?
I just wanted to congratulate Dennis for a great job. I wish I was at the game, but I wasn't. But congratulations for winning. And to the boys cross country team who got first place in their group. And I wanted to make sure of that. They did a great job. There were a lot of PRs that day. I was at the meet, so it was a really good meet. And this coming weekend is going to be the champions, and the weekend after that is going to be the county. No.
State sectionals. State groups. Sectionals groups.
I always say it wrong. State something.
State group sectionals.
So yeah, so congratulations to the whole staff.
Yeah.
Are there any other members of the board? Mrs. Thomas.
I have, I'm typing up a summary of the workshop that I attended last week. I don't have it ready yet. There was a lot of workshops I attended. But I'll talk a little bit about census during communications if you want me to. Some of the other ones I went to about teacher tenure, the mental task force report, the Ian Hockley address about the WeMan program, legislative update, negotiating health, U.S. Army and education. So I'll type it up and I'll share it.
Sounds good. Mr. Rum?
Yes, just to piggyback on that, I also attended workshops. I focused on.
Mr. Rum,
Can't hear you.
yeah, Mike.
I'm sorry. Let me fix that.
Two seniors can't hear.
Okay. I also attended workshops, and I focused on financial issues, as well as attending a workshop together with our superintendent on how to run a successful referendum, if we would ever consider something like that. I'd like the opportunity to address the questions raised by Arthur regarding both Edgewater and the Leonia student growth and what it does with regard to capacity in our schools. ACS, which is not affected by the population growth in Edgewater, is at its highest enrollment level ever. We are looking at expanding pre-K offerings that we are required to provide statutorily, and the opportunity to expand pre-K as a revenue source for the school district that would provide long-term revenue opportunities, but all of that requires room, and it raises all kinds of questions. And this board has started to look into this very seriously. The continuing population growth in Edgewater causes an additional strain on our buildings, both in the middle school and in the high school. I see no end in Edgewater yet. I keep reading stories where there is one last undeveloped parcel. Well, like everybody else, I can get Google Maps and I see plenty of undeveloped parcels that are all undergoing preparations. So the movie theater was being torn down. There is no application for it yet. What will be built there? The golf driving range has 193 proposed residential units. The two-story office building that was torn down is supposed to be replaced by a 15-story residential building. So our long-term capacity needs will be affected by the growth in Edgewater that continues and by the homemade growth here in Leonia as we're turning our housing stock over. This board has finally started to do a long-term planning where we go beyond what we are statutorily allowed to do with a long-range facility plan. We are only allowed to do 5-year plans with a long-range facility plan by law. We're not allowed to go 10 years out, or 15 or 20 years out. But in our long-term thinking, we have to do that. And we are in the process of doing this. And now comes the second part. All of this will require money. And it will require serious consideration of what we can afford, what we need to afford in order to maintain our educational level, and what the taxpayers in our town can do. Now, Arthur and I have had long-term inquiries, and I was part of that from your side of the dais, and now I'm sitting here and I continue those inquiries. And that is it fair to Leonia taxpayers to carry the burden for the capital cost of a much larger school district than we would have all by ourselves? The educational answer to that is we all benefit. All of our students benefit from the larger school district that we have. But from a financial point of view, it is very difficult to justify that Leonia taxpayers pay for the principal cost of our buildings that are much larger than they would need to be, and they will need to be larger in the future. That is a question that this board, future boards, will have to address, and it's a serious question. At the same time, our partner community, Edgewater, has to look at their financial ability to pay for the growth in their student body. That is a very serious question that they have to answer. And ultimately, we have to come to a decision of what the best way to move forward is. Regionalization or joining the school districts beyond the send-receive relationship is something that is being talked about in the state of New Jersey. Nobody wants to do it. People don't even want to take the first step, which would be to conduct a feasibility study to see what the actual financial results would be. And you have to do such a feasibility study because the tax basis that Edgewater is currently using for financing their tuition their tuition payments, and how Leonia taxpayers are paying through their property taxes directly for our school system are totally different. They are apples and oranges. You cannot compare the two. And nobody knows the answer of what the financial reality would be if we were to merge our school districts. Nobody knows that answer. Because school financing is so complicated that you have to do a year-long study just to figure out what the numbers would be. And nobody has done that anywhere around here. And I'm not aware of any school districts right now that are going through the feasibility study in the state of New Jersey. But these are questions that we will have to look at, and I've been saying this for a very, very long time. The sooner we start having these discussions and finding out what our options are, the more options we will have available to us. The longer we wait, circumstances will force our hand and will determine the choices for us. That is something we should avoid because nobody is helped by that. So, the short answer to your question is it's really complicated. And there is no fast and quick answer for it. We are working on it, and I'm committed that this board will continue to inform the public as we are moving forward. But it helps nobody if we are shooting from the hip and making promises or give you pie-in-the-sky scenarios that are not realistic. And we are trying to do the responsible thing. We have to do a better job in communicating that, and that will be my final point. I am fulfilling my promise that I will update you on the tuition formula. The building use charge. Question that I have raised with the state of New Jersey has been resolved. I have good news and bad news. The good news is I found $1 million. The bad news is it's old money. It's not new money, it's not additional money. What has happened, and we finally got an answer from the state, is that over the last 6 years, the budget software of the state of New Jersey falsely indicated the results of the building use charge in the advertised user-friendly budget. Since there's nothing user-friendly about that budget, in order for you to figure this out without the software that generates it, you would have been able to add up the numbers from 3 different pages, total them up, and then deduct the number that should have been in there from it in order to come up with the right amount. I was not capable of doing that, so I finally got help from the state of New Jersey that said, no, don't worry, your money is all there. Since we only find out 2 years after the fact whether this is actually the case or not, I'm still hopeful that maybe more money will be coming our way, but there is no money missing in the tuition payments that we were calculating. So the tuition rate was calculated correctly. It was just not shown correctly in the advertised budget.
All right, I have a suggestion. Has Edgewater established the committee yet for meeting with Leonia, like about tuition and things like that? I know Tom and I said we were going to discuss it, but I wasn't sure. I don't know if you're aware.
But I am.
Okay.
We have a committee. We'll probably look at this meeting in December.
Okay. So I think it would be a good idea then to discuss a lot of things once our committees meet. I think you and Maureen, the Leonia's committee. So, all right. So I think a lot of Leonia Edgewater things to discuss, and of course, report back to the public on all these matters, as they're all important. Are there any members of the board who wish to speak? No?
I'm pleased to announce that we're going to vote on the Leonia Education 5-year contract.
Okay.
You unfortunately weren't involved in that negotiation.
I am not involved in any negotiation.
And you can't vote on it.
Can't vote on any of them.
And I say that jocularly.
Speaking to the mic.
I say that
Make sure everybody.
in jest.
Please make sure everybody can hear that I cannot vote on negotiations.
In any event, I think it was approached as the other two union contracts were, with openness and fairness on both sides, with an eye towards the needs and goals first of the students and the teachers, and lastly but not the least, the taxpayers of New Jersey, including Arthur. So we were able to not have a problem with any of our negotiations.
I wouldn't know.
The 5-year contract?
Yes.
5-year contract, it mirrors the
You're talking about the administrator.
Administrative.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
and the janitor's contracts as well.
We wanted to keep them moving off different years.
So it was fair and equitable negotiation on both parts, and I'm pleased that Leonia is not going to waste time, energy, and money on having a problem with our unions. We're all on the same team, and this shows that.
I'm very thankful to the negotiations committee that I'm not on.
I just wanted to add one thing to Roland's point about Edgewater, just for clarity. I don't think everyone understands that we actually send, our classes get smaller and smaller as the grades go up. So we're sending less and less kids. So what's in our kindergarten is not what's going to come into the other. And the other thing is the board is working with the mayor and council and the zoning boards to mitigate future issues in the schools. So right now we're working on a lot of those properties where the assumption is that those are going to be what Facebook tells you. They're not. So I would say just let's be more informed before we share scary news to people that's not necessarily true.
Well taken. All right. Is there any other board members who wish to speak? All right. Seeing none, we'll move along. All right. The first thing is approval of the minutes from our last meeting, which was on October 15th.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Albanese? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Albany?
Yes.
Mr. Casano?
Aye.
Mrs. Sandy Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Robbins?
Yes.
Dr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Weimer?
Aye.
Mrs. Wild?
Eight.
Motion carries.
All right. Great. Next, we move along to our administrative reports, and we'll start with the superintendent's report.
Hey, Wes. I also went down to the school board's workshops. We went to many workshops, some of them with Roland, school law, leave of absence, referendum, CTE, finance, negotiating health benefits, collaboration with millennials was one of the ones I went to. And also, Mr. Callender and I presented our academy program to about 40 different people from the state, so it went well. As Zena said, Dr. Schuler said, the track team won the county title in Group C. Dennis's field goal was the winning point in the 15-14 win against Elmwood Park, so we're very pleased with that 38-yard field goal. And our tennis team won the Group 2 state championship. They're very successful, but they haven't won a state title overall since 2002. So it's been a very good fall for our sports team, so we're happy with that. Allie Slane, one of our science teachers in the middle school, has been invited by the Department of Education to serve on the NJSLA Science Middle School Standards. So we're very happy for Allie. It was a very nice reward for Allie. She did a great job with our 8th grade students. Last week, we had our third IEP transition night to the high school. Anthony Service and Chuck Callender presented. And then this week, Dave Sacco and Anthony Service present transitioning to the middle school. The special ed parents felt that they wanted a different night than just a regular open house. And it went very well for the 3rd year in a row, and it's a good thing to have. Dookie Hong, many of you know Dookie as a worldwide Korean restaurateur, and he came to visit our culinary students the other day, and the kids were very excited to meet him. The Humanities Academy went to the Cloisters, and they spoke there, and they also talked about the novel they spread over the summer, Tell the Wolves I'm Home, and Lauren Kelty and Jen Summers is in charge of our Humanities Academy. The Food Network, this is somewhat exciting. The Food Network was stopped by our high school to look at our culinary lab, and they want to use it for a show, a pilot for a show. So they're willing to pay us pretty good money, and also give us some good public relations. So we'll see what's going to happen. We're going to know in a couple of days whether or not we qualify for that. But our culinary lab is Food Network eligible, so that's a good thing, I think.
$6 million.
For 8 classrooms. 1 lab and 6. Michelle Jordan, the lady sitting behind you, has a brand new math classroom as a result of the $6 million. And then our singers, our choral group competed in the Bergen County Choir, and it's a robbery between Richfield and Leonia who get the most on the choir. Both choirs are excellent, and traditionally each year Richfield has beaten us, and for the first time ever we had 23 students and Richfield only had 21. So for the first time ever the choir had the most students from one school on it, so we're very happy with that. And that's it.
Okay, great. Next, we move on to the business administrator report.
It's very short. Our audit starts, our comprehensive annual audit starts on Monday the 4th. It was supposed to start last week, but I guess they got behind, so it starts on Monday. We're expecting them to be here for 2 weeks to complete it. And the IDA final report was submitted to the state and approved yesterday, so we were a little early.
Okay, great. Next, we'll move on to our HIB reports. Greg, I believe.
Good evening. You have one HIB report from the middle school. It's only our second HIB report of the school year, which is kind of low for now. Last year I told you that they changed some of the reporting requirements for the state, which is that we can kind of pre-screen them first, so we're not investigating every single one that we have a whisper of, and that means that we have fewer, and probably more of them are going to come up as positive because we kind of read this out. The one that you had in front of you is from the middle school. There's some unpleasantness going on, but what the ABS determined was it was not directed at a specific student for a perceived characteristic. It didn't cause a substantial disruption to the school day, so we deemed it not to be a hit. So you have a report. I think they had a chance to look at it. Any questions on it? Yeah, do you want me to go ahead to that also?
Yeah.
Okay. Later on, you're going to be voting on the HIV self-assessments that this school have to do. This is a requirement by the state that we have to self-assess. You have to approve it, and I have to submit it. So and we kind of have to do it by Thursday. So I do need you to vote on that. The self-assessment is basically checking to see are we meeting the requirements of the HIV anti-bullying Bill of Rights, and that requires that we have all of these things you see in the report. The scores are about the same. I think ACS lost a point or two from last year, and they stay pretty consistent. A score of a 3 is exceeding the state requirements. A score of 2 is meeting them. A score of 1 is below. And we had 2 1s that I'll be addressing with the principals. The one was about each of where the scores from last year posted to each of the school's websites. And when I sent it in July to have it posted, it was put onto one site, but the link went to another one. And so that is corrected now. So that one is fixed. We'll fix that one. The other one was at the high school, as far as number of actual meetings that the ABS held with her team. I think she only had 1 and she needed 2 to score it. That's fine. So I'll address that with her and with Chuck Callender, and I'll let ACS know the website is fixed, so those will be ready. Questions about that report?
I have a question.
Yes.
So the different components of that report, did the state say, like, if you do all this, we think these are good process measures, in terms of reducing then HIV violations? Like, is it, if you carry out this plan, then you will have fewer HIV?
No, I don't think that that's the point of this report. The point of the report is to make sure, and the point of the law is to make sure that we are reporting incidences as they happen. So that, yes, we have these systems in place to prevent them and to address them when they happen, but this report is much more about, are we following this entire law? Yes, hopefully that will prevent some of those things because we do education, we do training, we do all those things. But a lot of this report is very much geared towards, are we following the law and can we document that we are? And so involved in that is training for people and involvement involved. But mostly this is are we making sure that we're following all of this stuff?
Okay. It would seem to me like the appropriate thing would be like, these are the things we know reduce, and obviously this is not directed at you, but these are the things we know reduce harassment, intimidation, and bullying. So put these processes in place and report to us that you have them, and then you should see results. So I saw that, like you mentioned, the meeting. The only thing I saw on there that I thought we could probably really do better on is the training. And that seems consistent actually across all 3 schools in those reports. Is that something you're going to...
So one of the things that it mentions with training, for example, to score a 3 instead of 2, I don't have it in front of me, the rubric, was something like, you train all staff, yes, we do that. You train all teachers, yes, we do. You train all contractors associated with your school. Well, what contractors? We don't contract out for buses necessarily, but sometimes we do. Are we training them for like, that's where we might have some things looking through. So, like, am I confident that the ABSs and the principals on it? Yes, we are. And this is very much making sure we're staying on top of that. And we do. I mean, we're always working on HIV trainings and suicide prevention and all of these things that are related consistently.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Roland.
Yeah, I actually have a question on the HIP report itself.
Okay.
In this particular case, the student reported the incidents and the use of the language. So that student clearly perceived a harassment. The finding of the report is, if I understand it correctly, that it was not directed at the student, but the characteristics of the students and the language used sort of match up. So why is this not the case of it? And we had other cases where it was determined that it was a case of it.
Right. So a person can perceive lots of things, right? And I've talked before about how whether it's a hit or whether it's not a hit has a lot more to do with how we report it and how we keep track of things than it is about what's going to happen, consequences or support for the student afterwards. So either way, the consequences and the support would have been the same. We're going to talk with the one student about using appropriate language, we're going to talk to the other student about taking care of yourself and reporting things and all that stuff. And so that student got the support he needed as far as, okay, yes, that's upsetting language, and yes, you need to come to us. But as far as this being an incident of harassment, intimidation, bullying, as the state defines it, it was not. And so I want to make sure that you understand, we never said to the kid, no, you shouldn't have been hurt by that. Or no, you weren't attacked, or like, absolutely. But it's for the reporting for the state, this was not targeted at him because of his identifying characteristics, and it didn't cause a disruption to the day.
There was also, Roland, I think, Greg, you mentioned before, we talked about it in length, the parts where he's quoting the other student, there was no confirmation of that from the other students on the bus, including his friends. So was all those statements made? He did not think so, based on the investigation.
And that's it.
So
and the witnesses that were interviewed were his friends. They weren't the other kid's friends. And the incident happened on the bus that Mr. Sacco was on. So it's like there's a lot of things that we're like, okay, we don't see it that
The things that are quoted here would seem like it would be a hit, but most of those things probably were not said based on the investigation.
Yes, but this is the reason why I consistently bring this up, because we have a legal requirement to report things that are often, in the context in which they happen, something that is either something that didn't happen that way as it is alleged, or can be perceived differently depending on where you sit in the bus.
And so part of it is, as I said, that legal requirement that you're speaking of. But part of it also, in the intent of the law, is we need to be paying attention to what issues are happening in our schools. If I see a whole bunch of issues of this same type, I'm going to notice that because of all these investigations that we have done, whether it came out as a hit or not.
My criticism is we have an obligation to protect our students, regardless. Adding bureaucracy and paperwork to it is not something that makes me feel better about what we do. It's what we actually do with the students that counts, not the paperwork we have to fill out.
Other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll move along to committee reports. Oh, I'm sorry, is there a motion to accept the HIP fund? Mr. Weimer, is there a second? Ms. Thompson? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Is there a motion on the evaluation? I don't know what number is it? The self-evaluation. Yeah.
10C19.
All right. On 10C19. Thank you, Mary. Is there a motion? Ms. Alves, is there a second? Is there a second? All right. I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes. So,
Great, thank you.
we voted on both of them, so whenever you want to. Great.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on to committee reports. Lisa's not here. We'll skip over education. Finance and operations.
Yes, we have not had a meeting since the last board meeting. However, the issue of overtime is something that will need our attention. Our overtime expenditure in the month of September is way beyond what it should be, and it raises an issue of budgeted overtime. So the Finance Committee will look into that, report back to the full board on it after our November Finance Committee.
Community relations and communication.
So we also haven't met since the last meeting. I think I missed the last meeting, but I think we updated that we signed the district up to be a 2020 census partner. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Mary. When I went to workshops and they talked about the census, they said that it's trying to capture like a snapshot of the entire population in the United States in a period from March to April 2020. And that includes a lot of households that are very hard to count. So they found out from the 2010 census that children between the ages of 3 to 5-year-olds, including newborns, were very hard to count. Complex households like those with separated parents, children living with one parent or another in divorced households, homeless, people with no internet. They were very hard to count. So they're trying to really partner with the schools, with libraries, with community centers to make them all different areas where people can feel safe to go to be counted as part of the survey of the census study. And I did ask the question whether immigration status or citizenship was going to be a question on the census, and they said adamantly no. And that any of the information that they would be sharing with the Census Bureau would not be shared with other government agencies. This is what they told me. I don't have any proof of this, of course, but that's what they said at this workshop that I went to. They said that overcounting happens just as much as undercounting, though. So I think that the more people we can get within the community to help count, the more accurate at least we can make our district count. All right, so stay tuned on that. I mean, we're supposed to just wait for this one.
Yes, if I add something on the subject, I made the mistake of actually going to the Census Bureau website and signing up as a census partner, so now I get daily emails to my official board email address. But I also attended a recent meeting with the local Leonia library. There is an opportunity that we can actually partner not only with the Census Bureau but also with the library and the borough in order to facilitate the census and to ensure that the count is as accurate as possible. As Mary said, both overcounting and undercounting has serious consequences, and there is huge amounts of money attached to the results of the census, as well as the apportionment of votes through our representatives. So the census every 10 years is very important, and we should do everything that we can to make sure that it is as accurate as possible.
There's nothing to report from long-range facility planning. We'll have to organize a meeting. School safety.
Bryce and I met with SSO Steve from ACS tonight, and we asked him some questions, how he felt being here, how the children felt about him, if he had a good rapport with the parents, the teachers, and the administration here. He was very positive, very upbeat. It seems like everybody really likes him. He enjoys his job. He hadn't had any problems with anybody here. He sees sometimes kids, interacting, and he'll kind of step in and separate them, but he says everything here is very, very good. He's open to staying here for as long as we like him.
Good. There's nothing pre-K. Negotiations, do you want to?
No, I don't want to add anything other than the fact that, we finalized all our negotiations and we're looking forward to a long, private relationship without having to negotiate.
And then students, representative.
Yeah, okay, so first of all, thank you to everybody for the praise. I really appreciate that. Hopefully we can close out the season strong. Of course, it'll be my last season here, so I do want to make that happen. And now I want to bring emphasis to college admission testing. Right? So when an underclassman starts looking at colleges, probably like end of sophomore year, early junior year, a lot of the time they're really lost about SAT, ACT, what they mean, what they stand for, just their purpose in general. So I think that it would be a really good idea to have a mandatory assembly for students to go to and maybe pass out handouts talking about how the grading works, how important dates, overall just bringing more awareness to the students about SAT and ACT testing.
Did you speak to Mr. Callan?
I haven't.
Good idea.
And just another small thing to add. So I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but a few weeks ago there's been just like a minor incident in the new wing men's bathroom. I've been hearing concerns about when it will reopen. If you guys have any updates on that.
It's being fixed.
Good.
No, excuse me?
Plumbing?
No, but it's vandalism.
All right.
Chris,
Yeah, quick update on the resolution.
Awesome, yeah, the baby resolution.
We're about like halfway done. We're doing a little more research into like the resolved portion.
Okay.
We finished more of the whereas. I don't know what the technical term.
Yeah, no, that's right. Perfect.
The whereas portion, but it'll most likely be like emailed to us right tomorrow. Or not tomorrow, next week.
No problem. Sounds good, guys. Thank you. All right, we'll move along to the education portion. I believe we can vote on everything as written. Is there a motion? There's only two items. Thompson, is there a second? Swads, roll call, please.
Mrs. Albany?
Yes.
Mr. Catano?
Aye.
Mrs. Sandy Klein? Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Robbins?
Yes.
Dr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Weimer?
Aye.
Mrs. Wiles?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great. Next is finance. We can do it as written. Is there a motion? Ms. Albany, is there a second? Ms. Schulich? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Albanese?
Yes.
Mr. Casano?
Aye.
Mrs. Sandy Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Robbins?
Yes.
Dr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Weimer?
Aye.
Mrs. Wild?
Yes.
We're on now at the new business portion of the meeting. Dr. Lee.
There's two items. One is the appointment of Ezrina Lynn as the secretary to replace Alisa Gorin-Colucci, who's retiring December the 9th. A little overlap, so she can be trained by Lisa before she leaves. Second one is a reimbursement of $29 to USMA to be able to purchase an add-on for Google. This allows us to have the application process streamlined for the academies. And that costs us $29. Those are the two items.
Is there a motion? Andy, is there a second? Ms. Schulich? Roll call, please.
Question.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Stop.
Was there backup, any backup paper of data on?
I'm sorry, which item?
2019?
Yeah, it's right.
2019?
Yeah, it's right here.
Oh, sorry.
Is everything okay? You have it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any further discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Albanese?
Yes.
Mr. Casano?
Aye.
Mrs. Sandy Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Robbins?
Yes.
Dr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Weimer?
Aye.
Mrs. Wild?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, now we're at the negotiations on voting on the approval of the administrators.
So I would like to do that.
All right, is there a second? Dr. Cooley? Is there discussion?
Mrs. Albanese?
Yes.
Mr. Casano?
Aye.
Mrs. Sandy Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Robbins?
Yes.
Dr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Weimer?
Aye.
Mrs. Wild?
Yes.
Motion carries.
We are now at the next public comment, questions or praise on any items. So feel free to come up, state your name, and agenda.
Can you vote on it, or?
Yeah, I can. I can. That's not what the teacher do.
Oh, okay.
There's no conflict. I'm sorry. There is no conflict between me and the administrators at all.
Okay.
None at all. None at all. There's no conflict with me in any union, actually. I just can't vote on teachers' unions. I never have, and I never will. As long as my dad is a teacher and I sat there.
I thought it was.
No problem. But thank you. Public comment.
Hi, Joe Elise, 26 Poland Boulevard. The Borough Hall across the street is going up for sale, and I would like the Board of Ed to consider purchasing Borough Hall. I think that I heard that the Board of Ed has 3 properties that they use. I don't know if that's true, but if they did 3 separate properties that they use for makeshift offices. Is that correct?
There's 2.
Or 2?
The annex and the board office. Is there a third?
Is the annex is it's not a house, the annex.
The annex is right by the path down to the high school. There's a house.
It's like the first blue
Oh,
house.
so there's two makeshift houses, and not 3. Okay.
I don't think there's a third, right?
No.
I was pretty sure. 2 that I know of, yeah.
Okay. Okay. I don't know a lot about it. I know that that's going for sale. I think that the Board of Ed should entertain going into partnership with the town, which they would have to purchase it. And I think it would be a great spot for the Board of Ed, and it could be at a minimal cost to the town, pending the sale of those properties. I think it should be a consideration for the Board of Ed. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any, Ms. Rollman? Yep.
Hi, Leah Rowland, 186 Crescent Avenue. This is by the way, but could the public sit a little closer again? I know I have a hearing problem, but you're not afraid of the public, are you?
No.
No.
This is
Now,
only
that's
set it up
because
every
move the chairs up closer. We let me be more intimate with each other.
No problem.
To the young man who made the proposal, in their wisdom, mayor and council have not yet finalized plans for the municipal building, and it is not at all certain that the current borough hall will be for sale. But I would think, should their plans incorporate a three-purpose municipal building, and that building is available, I would not think there would be a sale, but pardon the expression, a quid pro quo. If you moved your administrative offices across the street, which would free several buildings along Grand Avenue available to add to our tax rolls. So it could be very mutually beneficial, but somewhat in the future.
We are, just to answer that, we are looking into a lot of different possibilities for our Alpha program, and that's one of them. So
Well,
the mayor and I have
as
already
I say, supposedly, there has not been a definitive decision about the fate of the current borough hall. As far as I know.
That's correct.
correct.
As far as we know as well.
As far as I know. I do want to say that I attended the candidates forum last week, and I think it is a great reflection on Leonia that you have so many interested, committed people who are willing to serve to the advantage of our children. And it was a really wonderful experience to get to know the candidates better, and I think whoever gets elected, you're in good shape. I'm looking forward to the elections next week, and I hope everybody here going to turn out and vote. Anyway, several items were brought up that resonated with me. One of them, I'm not taking it personally, was the utilization or better communication or involvement with senior citizens, people, not necessarily seniors, but those families whose children are no longer in the school system. And for me, it was really interesting. If you looked at the audience at the candidates forum, it seemed to me that the majority of the audience coming to that forum were very much in that category. So clearly, even in Leonia, when our kids have graduated from the school system, there is a vital interest and support of the school system among the Leonia families. But utilization of them is another thing, and I do know that there used to be some sort of program for life experience. I know because my late husband, who was a filmmaker, did participate at one point. But back in the 70s, from 72 to 76, before many of you were born, there was an adjunct in the Leonia High School called the Alternative School, which was under the management of an administrator, a social science teacher, and a math teacher, and with an enrollment of 100 students. The classes were led by our rich endowment of talented, educated, creative Leonians, artists, scientists, social scientists, painters, all led classes that were extremely valuable because these people had life experience and were happy to share that with the students. It was a great success while it lasted, I will say. And perhaps that kind of program can be adopted, or something similar where you do really utilize the talent of Leonia, which is a great enrichment. For example, an organization in Leonia called Building Bridges, in order to promote diversity, is having a cooking series. We've had a Korean cooking experience. Next week there will be a Cuban, there will be an Armenian. I'm going to do Jewish cooking. And I'm hearing about your wonderful new kitchen, which I think will be a valuable asset to the kids in the school. And you might consider that as a great laboratory for diversity, inviting various ethnic, talented cooks to come in and share their ethnic experiences with the students. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there other members of the public that wish to speak?
Hi, Robert Plottis, Moore, 212 Warwick Lane. Following up on what Joe said about the Borough Hall, Dr. Berlini, you mentioned the Alpha students. Is it safe to assume that where the Alpha students go, pre-K would go?
No.
It's not, okay.
No, not in Borough Hall.
Oh.
Borough Hall's not big enough.
Okay. But with those two,
No, we're not gonna, if we took Borough Hall, we cannot put both Alpha and pre-K there.
okay.
It wouldn't fit.
And would the ideal situation be to keep the Alpha and pre-K together wherever they may end up in one place?
St. John's is still on the table, but the cost right now to fix it is exorbitant.
No, it's too high. And I don't know the number of students in pre-K and Alpha put together, and is the idea to keep them in one place? Would that be ideal?
No, just to work out at the St. John's building to do that, but we would not necessarily have to do that.
Okay, thanks.
Are there other members of the public that wish to speak?
Arthur, that 125 Reldies. Mary, you mentioned about the officer, 60, I heard you had 60 officers. Are they uniformed or are they not uniformed?
They are uniformed by the board. They wear shirts that identify them very clearly.
Not a police type uniform.
No, it's not a police uniform.
And Roland, you mentioned an unfavorable variance on overtime. I've missed it because I can't hear the line. What department was that?
Maintenance.
Maintenance. Okay. Was there
Well, transportation and maintenance.
Was there an extraordinary event that led to it, or was it the bad budgeting? Insufficient budgeting.
Can't tell you.
Can't tell me. Okay.
No, can't
Not
tell you.
yet. Not yet.
Okay.
Not the same answer.
Just a comment. I think but there's some discussions about why we had such a wonderful negotiation between the board and the teachers union. I think it's wonderful. I think it's about time that they took the hostility and the antagonism out of it. So I think that who led that? Anthony? Anthony did a good job on that. I think the board did a good job on it. So that's a rare comment on a positive for the board from me. Even though I never said any positive for the board.
Thank you.
Fourth, the ACS growth. Okay. This town has not grown much. The only residential growth we've had recently was Woodland Place development. Now, several months ago, I brought up if the board had gotten statistics on how many kids were popping out of that facility. Do we have that number yet?
Working on it.
Still working on it.
We are working on it.
Okay.
But
I'd like to know if there. It was supposed that it was going to be not many when it was proposed to the town, not by you, by the mayor and council.
the houses are turning over, and people are retiring and leaving, and families are
From
coming.
Woodland Place?
No, all over the town.
Oh, okay. So this is normal expansion and contraction. Kids move, people move out. Students come in.
ACS is the largest ever right now.
Same.
First time we had 700.
I heard that. When I went to high school, Leonia high school, I think 700 was the entire school system, the district.
You went to high school.
Well, it was K through 7 here, right here, okay, and it was 8 through 12 that was now middle school. How many pre-Ks? Is that number for ACS including pre-K, or is that not including pre-K?
That's including pre-K.
Okay, so how many pre-K people are? Because
There's 2 pre-K classes.
How many?
Inclusion. There's 2.
How many?
It's 30.
Total.
Oh.
Okay, so it's not huge.
No, it's not.
I was wondering if the inflation.
The largest class in the middle in ACS is the second grade with 126 students, which is large.
How many classes? How many students in the class?
Right now, 25.1.
Well, when I was there, it was 30. Okay.
No.
I was G. I always sat in the back.
You'll have to say that's right. In fact.
All my kids are Zayas.
Yeah, 25 is usually the magical number. So we're in the need maybe next year of adding a third grade class because we have 5 second grade at the max right now.
Is Carmi failing us, or are we really going to get that?
No, we're going. And the problem is, and we've talked about moving the 5th grade, there's always been a discussion, as it was at the debate the other night. We have no room for another 3rd grade. Unless you take hard for them.
I understand that conflict, but like I said, we were here K through 7, and there was never a conflict. So, I mean, I don't know if it's a school system any longer. But
the problem is room also right now. That's the problem.
Final last question, turf. What's going on with the turf?
Steven, right now we're just waiting on the DEP.
Yeah.
It's
moving.
It's
It's moving.
Yeah.
Okay.
Slowly.
That was all. Thank you.
The DOE, sorry, not.
Part of education.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. The DOE has to approve this. Sorry.
DEP went well.
DEP. Oh, that's good.
No, it's not the DOE. It's got to be the DEP.
No, that already happened. That's done. It's the DOE that has to approve.
Part of energy?
No, education.
Oh, education.
Yeah.
Commission.
The facilities, the DOE's the Department of Energy. Okay.
All right. Seeing no more board comments. Public comments. Is there more public? No? All right. Seeing none. You want to do what you do? You always take time public comment.
Seeing no one, but I think some people should say something, if they did. Move we close the public portion.
Okay. Is there a second?
What was missed, I think?
I'm going to send you an email. I took notes on it.
I'll bring it up. Tell me. Whisper.
All right. Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. We're now back in board comment. Ms. Albanese, did you have something to say?
I stopped by a turf field table while I was at workshops, and I met Bobby. That was the gentleman's son. And he and I had a little discussion. But behind him, there was this huge display of all of these turf fields that they had done in schools in New Jersey and in the area. New Milford just got a brand new turf field, which looks very nice. There was a turf field in Fairlawn. So if anybody is very curious about the turf field, I am willing to take you in my car. We can go on a field trip and look at these turf fields in person.
Just have to go to Edgewood.
Well, we can do that too. But if they want to see something that is newly installed, like it's very, very current. New Milford.
All right. Are there any other board comments? Mr. Warren?
Just a couple of comments. One on the ACS student population growth. I don't know yet how many students are in Woodland. I've actually proposed, together with the town, to do a longitudinal study as to what is happening to our housing stock. What we are apparently seeing, but we don't have any hard data to verify it, and hard data to actually base our planning on, is what exactly is happening. But by observation, what appears to be happening is that a lot of our housing stock is turning over. Those people who currently finance our schools, namely those people that do not have children in our school district, are moving out. And they're being replaced by people who moved here because of our school district. Now, it takes approximately the taxes from 2 average assessed homes in Leonia to pay for 1 student. So thank your neighbors who don't have kids in school. Yeah? Or live in a house that is not average assessed and pay the full load, like I do. But if we are experiencing what apparently is the case, although we don't have the hard data for it, that more and more people are moving out, maybe because our taxes are so high, the people who move in and can afford to pay the taxes come with children. It is younger families with children. There's nothing wrong with it, but it has financial consequences, and we need to be aware of that. That's why I have proposed this study. But as usual, with anything that we do, it's really complicated. There's publicly available data on every single home in our town. I can look up how much you pay in property taxes for every single home. The school district has enrollment data for every single student and where they reside, because only students who reside in our communities are entitled to be here. Matching up those two data sets legally without violating any privacy protection right is difficult. Who gets to look at the data? What is it that you are allowed to do with the data? That is why it's not so easy to get the data, look at it, and analyze it. And we have to do this over multiple years in order to recognize any trends and whether any of those trends are accelerating or decelerating and what they're doing to our tax base. The good news in this, possibly a glimmer of hope, is that as people move into our town, they're also renovating those homes and thereby increasing the tax base because the value of the homes go up. But is that enough to offset the additional cost of the students that are moving in? Yeah? We don't have the data. I hate it. We should have this data. Every single town should have this data available to them so they can make smart decisions. We don't. The system is stacked against us because we have conflicting interests. And that is why it takes so long to actually get to the bottom of things and get something done. And with that, I want to briefly comment on Borough Hall. Borough Hall is one of those. Right now, from my point of view, and this is my personal opinion, right now it's a Trojan horse. Yeah? It is something that may be a gift, but it comes from the Greek. So be careful of the Greeks bearing gifts. Yeah? I'm just quoting from my classical education. Number one, there is no decision that we could make at this point because nobody knows whether the Borough Hall will become available. So this board will decide this when we can. We are in discussions because we have to evaluate all the consequences of such a step. What do you use it for? How much is it going to cost to move that? What do we have to give up? Are there other opportunities? And as our superintendent said, we have problems in this building that we need to address that the Borough Hall wouldn't solve. So where are the priorities? And in the end, do we have any money to do it? Because I don't think anybody wants to spend even more of their hard-earned money in property taxes to fund an ever-expanding school budget. So none of these things are simple. They need to be discussed, and we are doing that. And it's good that the public asks the questions. Please keep coming, ask the questions. Arthur, you are always welcome by me to come here and hold our feet to the fire. It's also incumbent on us as the members of the board to tell the public clearly, openly, what the consequences are before we make a decision. And in most cases, that's my experience of being on this board for 2 years now, the complexity of every single issue is just mind-boggling. But you cannot say, yes, fabulous idea, right in the middle of the town, there is a building that we could get from the borough, maybe we can make a trade with them somehow. Unfortunately, nothing when it comes to education is simple.
Quick understatement, but yeah. All right. So I have good news for the public as well. We get to skip the closed session portion of the meeting because we don't have anything to discuss in closed session tonight. So everyone can stick around for the remaining second portion of the meeting if you so choose. But this is the part where we would normally go into close, but we're going to continue on with the meeting. Yeah. All right. So let me just make sure. So we would be right here. Okay, great. So now we're back at approval of personnel items. Is there anything to talk about? Is there a motion? Oh, sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, motion, is there a second? Mr. Weimer, second. Is there discussion, questions?
I had a question.
Yes.
Is fair game for public discussion?
Well, I guess, I don't know what the question is, so I don't know about that.
I thought we were having a closed session, and I was going to ask more questions. Would you like me to write it down?
Is it about the,
It's about one of the substitute teachers and qualifications.
that would have to be close.
All right.
Sorry.
Oh, you see,
Can we-
you told me we could close. All right, do we have to close this?
Don't we have to
Yes.
raise the person?
Is the person in the right?
No, they're current employees.
No.
They're being appointed as substitute teachers, so they're not
I just
employees.
have a qualification question.
The two, maybe I can answer in general then.
Okay.
Maybe I can get the, if you see on the right-hand side of each name, there's an interview by one of the vice principals. So the vice principal is interviewing person to person, and I believe that both of them qualify.
One of them had teaching experience, and one of them didn't. And so I was concerned about the one that did.
Most of our substitute teachers do not have teaching experience. It's actually a plus to have somebody with teaching experience. Almost no substitute teachers.
Okay.
Actually, I appreciate the opportunity to ask the question not regarding these candidates, but about our appointment process for substitute teachers. Is there any policy or procedure in place to check on the quality of the substitute teachers after we hire them? How they work in the classroom, whether they are performing to the level that we expect them to perform?
Each teacher that's covered by the substitute teacher gets to rate the substitute teacher. And there are teachers that have been no longer invited back to sub. So there
But how
is.
would they know if they
So
weren't there?
this happens automatically.
Yes, in the automated system, the teachers get to vote or grade the substitute teacher.
Based upon what they did or did not do, like did they follow the sub-plan?
Yes.
Things like that.
It's usually the students
Yeah.
they got the work done.
So substitute teachers sometimes are banned from not invited back or whatever you want to say. So there is an evaluation by the teacher.
For whom they substitute.
Yes.
Isn't that an inherent problem because they substitute for that teacher because that teacher is not present? So who actually sees what they're performing, how they're performing in the classroom?
But if the student hands their work in, gets it done, that's part of the process. Or
no, that tells us how good the students are. It doesn't tell us how good the teacher is.
Substitute.
Let me put this way.
Knowing students react to substitutes,
I would say.
it's a pretty big accomplishment if they actually turn in the work.
Yeah,
right?
I was going to say,
Sorry.
Well, maybe we could hire another teacher to watch the substitute and report back.
That would raise a budgetary problem ultimately.
Mark said you pay for that, right?
What's that?
No.
Yeah, right.
And also, substitute teachers are very difficult to get. Very difficult. So if their evaluations are good, then they stay. But they're not good.
But to address this question with regard to who sees it, I mean, so two things happen. If there's a problem with the substitute, either the principal or the vice principal is going to hear about it, or maybe a supervisor or whatever, and that's going to be dealt with. It has to be an investigator to look at, whatever. That'll be. I mean, I've been not just in this district, but multiple districts. If there's a problem with the substitute, it's not just like the teacher said that they weren't good, we're not calling them back. It's more involved than that. But in terms of the evaluation of what they're performing, I mean, their role is to basically ensure that the students do the work that's left on the substitute plans that the teacher does. So, not to minimize their role, but they have to do student supervision and make sure the kids are doing. They're not necessarily delivering instruction the way a teacher would. So, what's being evaluated is relatively minimal, right? Yeah.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion? Or, sorry, can we roll call, please? Very nice.
Okay, so on, just a question.
Yeah.
Do you need to abstain from any of the teaching?
Yeah, I will.
All right. Mrs. Albanese?
Yes.
Mr. Casano?
Aye.
Mrs. Sandy Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Robbins?
Abstain?
Dr. Schuler?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Weimer?
Aye.
Mrs. Wild?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, great. That's it. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Not opposed? One opposed? Any abstentions? Great.
Last week.
Actually, right?
Last night.